But it's actually much more serious than this because, in my opinion, adding a watermark to your photos can harm your photography business. Hey guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back to That Stage, where we talk all about food photography so you can build the meaningful creative career you want. Watermarks suck. Okay, I said it. Controversial. Don't come for me in the comments. I know a lot of photographers like to add watermarks to their photos, and there's a lot of persuasive arguments as to why this might be the case, but 9 times out of 10, the reasons for adding this have kind of been sort of wiped out by technological advances. It's a debate that has been raging pretty much since the internet began, and I'm hoping in this video to tell you why I believe adding watermarks to your photos is kind of a waste of time. Okay, let's talk about protection against image theft. So this is probably the #1 reason that I hear photographers adding watermarks to their photos. And it's definitely something that I can sympathize with. Take this photo, for example. This is a photo that I shot quite a few years ago for my food blog, and I had pretty much forgotten about it since. And then one day I'm sitting at my desk and I get this text from my friend, which says, "Hey, I'm in Spain and I'm sitting in this cafe and I'm pretty sure this is your photo on the menu. Did you know about this?" No, I didn't know about it, and as you can imagine, I was pretty upset by it. It's a pretty old photo of mine, so it's not one that I really want to find being used anywhere today, with permission or otherwise. It's really not a nice feeling to have your work stolen, even on a small scale example such as this one. It just kind of sucks, it's rude. And thinking about it, I probably wouldn't be that happy if I was a customer at that cafe either, because if they're not taking pictures of the actual food they're making, then it kind of makes you wonder, do they even know how to make any of the food they are making? It's just not cool. And on another note, I've even heard of a photographer who had their work stolen and printed on a billboard. Now, obviously that is a huge example, and it's not really just the money that's an issue. I mean, what if your photo was stolen and used by a company that you disagreed with on ethical grounds? Like, you don't want your work attached to a brand that you didn't give permission to. So obviously here the argument is that adding a watermark to your photos will prevent this kind of image theft. But is that really the case? We'll come back to that in a minute. First though, let's look at the argument that in an age where images are pinned, reposted, and shared often without credit to the original photographer, adding a watermark can make sure that credit is given where it's due. It's not only about credit though, it's also about hard cash. Many photographers will insist that because of the watermark on their photos, they were reached out to by many brands and magazines wanting to license their images for use. So the argument goes, well, if there's no watermark on the photo, then how are they possibly going to know who to contact? So out comes Photoshop and on goes the watermark. Okay, so let's have a look at the last argument that we're going to look at for adding a watermark to your photo, and that is to prevent unauthorized printing. Many wedding and baby photographers rely on selling prints to their clients as a core part of their income. Understandably, they don't really want their clients making prints of the low resolution files that they were provided with for the purposes of showing digitally or posting on social media. And most clients will be okay probably posting on social media the photos that have the photographer's logo printed on them, but less so, they probably don't want a framed print with the photographer's logo on it. And therefore, for these business owners, adding a watermark to low resolution files helps prevent against this kind of unauthorized home printing of their images. This makes some sense, although in my case, it wasn't really worth it to do anything about it in the end. I wasn't so much upset about the image theft, although of course I was, as the low resolution JPEG that had been downloaded from my website being printed on a menu. As a photographer, your image relies quite a lot on the way that your work is presented to the public. So if people are seeing low quality JPEG files printed on menus and then that's attributed to you, that doesn't look great. So clearly, if you are in that kind of wedding baby photography business, you are going to want to protect your work against unauthorized home printing. The thing is though, I'm not a wedding photographer, and neither are a great number of the photographers who do add watermarks to their images. And what's more, although apparently logical, some of these arguments are based on some pretty shaky assumptions, including the fact that technology hasn't moved on since 1989. Today, there are numerous apps that will help you remove a watermark from a photo. You don't even need to be a Photoshop whiz. So what's to assume that dodgy restaurant owners don't have access and won't be using these apps either? A small logo in the bottom corner of an image can really easily be cropped out, so there's almost no point putting it there. And sure, you could go ahead and slap a much bigger, more prominent logo on the middle of your photo, but what's the point of going to all the effort of producing a great image only to obscure it with a big logo over the middle? In any case, even those kinds of watermarks can be pretty easily removed with the right software. And no doubt there probably is a point that comes where a watermark genuinely will act as a deterrent against someone stealing a photo. But the point at which that comes is also exactly the point that your watermark kind of just makes your photo look a total mess. So what about the argument that adding a watermark to a photo makes a photographer easier to find online? I'll admit it probably does make it easier to find them, but that doesn't mean that a photographer who doesn't add watermarks to their photos is difficult to find. Once again, technology comes to our rescue. Why would we assume that picture editors in magazines or photo buyers for ad agencies would never have heard of Google reverse image search? If someone wants to find out who shot a particular photograph, it'll take them probably about 2 seconds to run that photo through Google reverse image search and trace it back to the original photographer. In any case, if a photographer adds a watermark to all their photos, then they can't really say that they do receive more passive income because of this, because who knows how many queries they would have had if they didn't add a watermark to all their photos. As I said earlier, I did used to watermark my work, but I stopped pretty much as quickly as I started, and it hasn't been a deterrent against people contacting me wanting to license my work. Evidently, clients are quite capable of tracing down a photographer even in the absence of a watermark. Would I make more image sales if I did add a watermark to all my photos? Well, maybe. Just as with the photographers who do add a watermark to every single photo, I've no way really of knowing if things would be different if I did them differently. But would they all be quality clients looking for high quality imagery? Here, I believe not, and that's the important point. I believe in a lot of cases that high-end clients are not looking for images with watermarks. As a photographer, it's really important to develop a brand, which means a nice logo, a website, colors, fonts, all of that kind of stuff that complements your style of photography. But not everyone who likes your photography is also going to like your branding. You just can't please everyone. That being the case, surely it makes sense not to plaster your branding over every single photo you take. Sometimes the best branding is also knowing when not to brand. It's one thing to have your logo on your portfolio site, on your business cards, but it's another thing to plaster it all over your images. Having a logo on your website and social media where it can be viewed separately to your images is one thing, but the potential of alienating potential clients, it just doesn't make sense to me. And ask yourself, do the leading photographers in your field add watermarks to their images? I highly suspect the answer is no. I think they probably have bigger things to worry about than the odd photo being printed on some dodgy cafe menu or stolen on another blog. If someone wants to print a 60-foot billboard from a 72 DPI JPEG they downloaded from my website, then they're kind of going to get what they deserve anyway, an unusable pixelated mess. You certainly don't see top-end fashion, art photographers using watermarks in their portfolios, so why should it be any different for food photographers? And if you're still worried about people and potential clients not being able to trace your image back to you, then I would really consider embedding the metadata into your image, which can easily be done within Lightroom. This, of course, just like a watermark, can be stripped away from any image, so it's not a 100% fail-safe solution, but it will go a long way in helping clients find you when it's embedded online. Like I said earlier though, if you believe that adding a watermark to your work is the best way for you to protect your work and for people to find you, then by all means go ahead. This is really just my opinion. I'm not in any way saying this is what you have to do. I just want to put a different perspective out there to give you something to think about when it comes to watermarking. So do let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Please be kind. Know that there isn't a right or a wrong way. We just have different opinions. You know, some people think that watermarking is essential. I don't, but I would love to know what you think about it in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.